This took place around 11 p.m. on a Wednesday night in 2015. Let me start this story off like this. I'm an avid coyote hunter, and I used to absolutely love hunting them at night when they were most active. One afternoon, I decided I was going to take off and go hunting after the sun went down. I get home, I load my gear, and I hit the road. About an hour later, I pull into the parking area for the state forestry that I'm going to hunt. This particular place that I chose, I've had luck with in the past, and I knew of a den about a mile from the main trail. So I set off down the graveled path, unknowing of what I was about to encounter in just a short while. My strategy is to walk about 100 yards at a time, stop, and then blast a coyote locator call until I hear one respond. On the first set, nothing. And the second set, also nothing. However, on the third set, everything changes. The trail that I'm on makes a really sharp, almost hairpin turn to the right, and in the middle of that hairpin is a Civil War area cemetery with a dense pine thicket behind it and a very steep bottom across the trail in front of it. I have a habit of walking through the cemetery and just touching the main headstone, almost, as a sign of respect or something. Well, as I'm walking up to the headstone, I hear the faint sound of something landing on the ground in the pine thicket. Now, the weird thing was that I only heard one boom, as if a human or a bipedal thing touched down. Usually, animals, like bobcats or whatever else is out there, when they jump to the ground, it's front paws first and then the rear. So I'm accustomed to hearing two boom booms, the fronts and the backs. Now, immediately, I start to feel uneasy and I want to leave. But the only problem? Whatever was in that pine thicket stood between me and the only way back to my truck. I start to notice the silence that's washed over the woods. Like everything that was just making a noise a minute ago was now gone. And it's also at this point in time when I notice the unmistakable feeling of being watched. I immediately started scanning the pine thicket to see if I could see something, anything that would make this bizarre situation make sense. I scanned for what felt like hours until finally I noticed it. On the edge of the thicket, there was this thing. It was too tall to be a human. It's probably 7 or 8 feet. And I could only make out the outline, but it looked kind of emaciated and deathly. My mind was playing tricks on me because, this is the stuff you only ever read about and never really encounter. But my reality soon changes when this thing darts to the right and then runs down into the bottom. Now, the bottom was about 300 to 400 feet deep and incredibly steep. But whatever that thing was got to the bottom of it in no time flat. The good news is the path to my truck is now clear, and I was trying to come up with a plan to make it, but as I would soon discover, the thing ran into the bottom to better position itself for an ambush from behind. I waited about 5 more minutes before I decided to move. I took 1 step forward, and then I heard it. It was now in the bottom, directly below me, slowly working its way up the hill. I bolted. I ran straight across the trail, directly through the cemetery, and then headfirst into the pine thicket towards the main road. I ran about 100 yards and stopped. And, the scariest part is that whenever I would stop, it would stop. The entire time that I was running, I could hear it running behind me, gaining on me. Now, this is the exact reason that I always carry a pistol when I hunt, and it's always in a holster on my chest, just in case. I decided that the only way I was going to make it out of here alive was to dump and run. Essentially, you fire in the direction of the threat until your mag is empty, and then you run like hell. I had 3 mags with me in total, 51 bullets between me and certain death. I counted 1, 2, 3. I emptied the entire mag and made a mad dash as far as I could, never again hearing the thing behind me. I stopped after what felt like hours. I reloaded and I readied for another barrage of bullets. About 15 seconds after stopping, I start to hear crashing, kind of like a big animal was blasting through trees, running in my direction. I shoot again, I dumped, and I bolt. This time, the plan was to run all of the way to the truck. It's about a half mile from my current position through the woods, and this time while I'm running, I can hear it getting closer and closer still. I jump behind this fallen log to reload one more time. I'm down to my last mag. And now, of course, since I've stopped, it's also stopped. I could hear the low growl that this thing had. It was like a dog or like a coyote that was mixed with something from the pits of hell. Bang, bang, bang. I keep blasting. The slide of my pistol locked back, and I was off again. The truck is now in my sights, maybe 70 yards away. I ran faster than I ever have in my entire life. I finally make it back to my truck. I jump in, I stab my keys into the ignition, I turn my truck on, and I get the hell out of there, the entire time scanning the woods on either side and behind me. I've never been back into those woods of Brown County, Indiana, at night by myself, and you know what? I more than likely never will. I've been a trucker for over a decade, and you hear all sorts of stories on the road, but this one still gives me chills. I was driving through a particularly desolate stretch of highway in the Midwest when I decided to pull over at a truck stop for the night. The place was pretty run down, and there were only a few other trucks parked there. As I was getting ready to settle in, I overheard a couple of other guys talking near one of the trucks. They seemed on edge, like they were urgently whispering something. I could catch snippets of their conversation, and I heard one of them say, "Watch out for the lizards." I thought that was a weird thing to say, but at the time, I didn't think much of it. I figured it was some local slang or maybe an inside joke. As the night went on, I started to drift off, but then I could hear footsteps crunching outside on the gravel. It was strange because it didn't sound like only one set of footsteps. It sounded like a small group of people were walking around, but the pattern was irregular and unsettling. Curiosity got the better of me, so I peeked out of my window. I couldn't see much in the dim light, but there were definitely figures moving around the parking area. They seemed to be skulking between the trucks, almost like they were looking for something. I told myself it was probably just other drivers getting up and stretching their legs, but the unease that was now building up inside me wouldn't go away. Suddenly, I heard a sharp knock on my door. My heart leapt into my throat and I glanced at the clock. It's well past midnight. I call out, asking, "Who's out there?" But I got no response. Only the sound of footsteps shuffling away. Now, at this point, I'm too spooked to investigate any further, so I locked all of my doors and I just tried my hardest to get some sleep. Just as I was drifting off again, I hear this low, hissing sound coming from somewhere nearby. It's faint, but it's persistent, kind of like someone whispering just out of earshot. I squeeze my eyes shut and I tell myself, hey, dude, it's only your imagination. Chill. But then I heard the footsteps again, and this time they were closer. Throughout the night, I can hear knocks and scratches on the other trucks around me, and every once in a while, there's some sort of yelling or moaning coming from the distance, kind of like someone or something was trying to communicate or call out. Occasionally, I would get this waft of smoky smell, like a cigarette going through the air when these creatures were close to my truck. The rest of the night is a blur of eerie sounds and creeping dread. I kept telling myself it was just some weird local prank or something, but no, even I couldn't believe that. The whole thing just felt off. As soon as the first light of dawn breaks, I don't waste a second. I fire up my truck and I get out of there without even looking back. I didn't want to see what might have been left in the morning. And, to this day, I can't shake the feeling that there was something more to those, quote, lizards than meets the eye. Maybe it was just an overactive imagination. Or maybe there's something out there in those backwoods truck stops that we're better off not knowing about. Stay safe out there and keep your eyes and your ears open. You never know what might be lurking in the woods at night. I'll start this off by saying I grew up completely and 100% adamant that the paranormal is not real, and that it could all just be rationalized, and the people who believed in it just hadn't thought about it hard enough. I've made other posts on other subreddits about the paranormal events that have happened in my life recently, and they've all changed my mind. Primarily about my neighbor's house. However, that's not what I'll be talking about today, though. I live in a camper in the Midwest. I'm on a small rural lot between a cornfield and a small forest. I've lived in this county my entire life, and I know it like the back of my hand. Now, this being said, I've come to the conclusion that my experiences around the rural and the wooded parts of this country are mostly from crawlers, and I'm 100% sure of it now. I've had many crawler encounters actually. None of them were back-to-back, but they do happen frequently. There's a forest/park in the middle of the town, and I've always hated it at night ever since I was little. As I got older, my cousin and I thought getting scared was pretty fun, so we'd go there at night on purpose for a little adrenaline boost, but we never lasted very long. I always felt like I was being watched. Now this, on top of other urban legends of people going missing here at night, made me feel really uneasy. Fast forward to just a few years ago. I got married, and I'm settling into life as a husband. I'd take my large, all-black German Shepherd Fenrir on walks with me at night. I always walk towards the park, but I usually don't go into the park. The first time something weird happened was 5 years ago. I was walking Fenrir, and I noticed that the woods to the front of me and to the right of me are completely silent. My dog starts acting super anxious, and he's usually a very stoic and quiet dog, so this weirded me out. He's 120 pounds, and he's built like a tank. He looks crazy intimidating, and he knows it too. I hear rustling in the woods, and it sounds like it's following me now, and it felt like I was being stalked. Fenrir and I run home, and that's the end of our first encounter. I've had a few more encounters like that, but last year things really amped up. I was on a walk around 11:30 at night with Fenrir and my wife and our little newer dog. His name is Booger. He's a terrier Chi mix. We're walking down the same path and about 3 blocks away from the woods, maybe 4 or so deer are sprinting out of the trees into the street towards us, and they seem spooked. And that's when I hear what I can only describe as what sounds like a human trying to mimic a monkey. I kind of thought it was really silly until recently, when I happened upon another person's story where he says he heard the same fucking thing. We laughed it off as just, some kids being loud playing around. We continue on our walk, and when we finally come up to the woods, we're now walking parallel with them, and I can clearly see 2 reflective eyes and the silhouette staring us down from the tree line. We also hear this deep growl and something like a hissing sound. It wasn't super high-pitched or anything. Both of our dogs acknowledged this as well. Finn stared, and Booger just started growling a little bit. I made a Facebook post on the community's Facebook group for our neighborhood, and I got to see other people that lived in my town tell similar stories as mine. Around this time, I get a job as a tour guide / maintenance man for Rail Explorers. I'm working there again this year as well. We start April 1st. Basically, they take, unused paths or tour-specific railroad sections that aren't used federally, and they have those pedal carts with motor assist on them, and you can use them to explore the tracks and just cruise through the area. It's super cool, and everybody really loves it. The one that I work at is like 5 minutes from where I live, and it goes through the woods to this inaccessible part of the county unless you float down the river and then hike up a steep hill full of loose dirt. You go under one old car bridge and you go over 2 multi-100-foot length old train bridges. The first one is larger and much taller. It's probably 150 feet off the ground above the forest, and the second one goes over the river. About 6 months into the job, it's fall. We work until midnight sometimes, with the last tour leaving at about 9 p.m. That means the last tour for the last 2 months of the year are in complete darkness. The way the job operates is with 6 employees. 4 get on the lead bike, and 2 get on the rear bike. From the lead bike, we drop off 1 person at the busy intersection so they can flag traffic, and 1 person gets dropped off at the large train bridge that goes over the woods. The person at the bridge gives a short safety speech to the customers who stop and go one at a time over the bridge. The employee carts are much faster than the customer carts. We all have walkie-talkies, and we usually have these battery-powered floodlights that are on stands that we use so the customers can see us, and we all wear very reflective light-up safety vests. On one particular night, we were behind by 20 minutes or so. Instead of leaving the depot at sunset, we were leaving at dusk. I was stationed at the high bridge. By the time we reached the bridge, it was pitch black, aside from the stars, providing just a little bit of light. My coworkers dropped me off and they waited with me until the first customer arrived. I gave the little speech to that first cart of 4. I chatted with them a little bit, and I was trying to buy us some time and wait for the next customer cart so there wasn't a massive gap for my coworkers who have to flip the bikes around. After a few minutes, I let those customers leave, and I was now alone. I was there for 20 minutes. I used the radio so many times, but it was just static for everybody. This was one of the only times we've ever had an issue like that as well. I keep seeing movement in the tree line. I keep hearing fast footsteps all around me and what seem like they're coming from every direction. I had the floodlight on above my head, so everyone and everything could see me, but I couldn't see shit. I don't love the thought of that, so I turn off my floodlight and I switch over to my personal flashlight. I keep seeing quick glimpses of something with pale skin moving quickly, but right when I started seeing stuff, I could hear the next customer cart coming close. So I turned my headlight back on and I waited for them to come around the corner, trying to be cool. When they pull up, I noticed they had a little boy with them, and he says he's scared of the dark. I'm terrified at this point, but I have to act appropriately, even more so because of this boy. I don't want to scare him. As I'm finishing my speech, I hear movement right behind me and say, "Jesus fucking Christ," and I spin around with my flashlight on instinct. Poor kid. I told them it was probably just a deer, and they were good to go across the bridge. That same night, the person stationed at the intersection, and this isn't like a town intersection, by the way, it's very rural. It's right next to a massive cornfield. He is Native American, and he's very in tune with his culture. He told me privately a few weeks later that he heard rustling in the cornfield, and whatever was out there was whispering his name and trying to get him to go into the field. He was also without communication for those same 20 minutes that I was, but he wasn't in the woods, and he could see a lot more than I could. Another time, me and that same coworker were headed back on the front cart. We were a ways ahead, so we stopped the cart in the middle of the high bridge. I know it sounds scary. I'm a little bit afraid of heights, and this bridge has massive gaps between the planks that you theoretically could fit through, but after doing it so often, you just get used to it. It was a clear night, and we were watching the stars together, just making small talk, and then everything goes quiet. We're about 100 feet in the air above the woods, and we can hear for miles. The dogs barking across the river 2 miles away can be heard without even seeing the houses. And that's when we both hear what sounds like a human mimicking a monkey. We hear growling. My friend looks over at me, and he's completely serious, and he tells me in this very stern tone that we need to get out of here right now. So we drive the fuck out of there, and he moves states to Nevada very shortly after this. A few other things happened here and there, and to all of my coworkers as well. I mean, each of them have at least one story to share, but I'm only going to share mine in this one. A few months go by, and it's now late fall. It's probably the middle of November. I drive through that park in town a lot when I just want to go for a drive. I had my dog Fenrir with me, and it's now close to 2 a.m. I can't sleep, so I'm listening to some Melvin CD in the CD player of my Jeep, and I'm driving leisurely through the park. As soon as I get past the entrance gates, I feel really uneasy and just weird. I'm not easily scared. I mean, going to that park at night does make me feel a very primal fear, though. It's kind of like a fight or flight, but on steroids. I've never felt that way in my life anywhere else, ever, and it happens every time I'm here. So I'm driving through the park, just trying to enjoy the scenery. Like I said, my dog Fenrir is with me, and I've rolled down my windows just far enough for him to poke his head out, but he can't leap out. I go deeper into the woods, and I start to feel worse and worse. I decide not to turn around though, because I'm already past the halfway point, and now turning around would actually lead to me being in the woods for longer. It's faster if I just keep going and pop out the exit. I started speeding where there weren't any turns that I couldn't see around. I round the last corner, and what I see gives me nightmares for months. I see this pale, skinny, humanoid figure in the woods. It's tall and lanky, and it's fucking crawling on its hands and feet, but it was crawling fast too, like probably 20 miles an hour type shit. We don't have bears out here, and the only animal that size are large humans and deer. And this wasn't a deer. It went from my right side, crossed the street, over to my left side, and then went into the tree line. Fen sees it too, and he doesn't usually bark at animals, not even other dogs, but this time, he's going ballistic. He's trying to force himself out of that small gap in the window, nearly foaming at the mouth and snarling at whatever this thing was. He never acts like that. I'm a certified dog trainer, and I've raised him from birth. Most recently, I've become obsessed with this park. I've walked there at night from my camper to the park with Fenrir, and I don't think I'll ever do that again.